Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you today. We have been working on this Stern Rawhide pinball machine, Electromechanical, one of their very first games. And we did a video on it before where we worked on the Playfield. It had a bunch of wear on it. We took everything off of it, cleaned it up, repainted some of it. Go check that out if you haven't seen it already. But the thing doesn't really work all that great. So we're going to work through it, clean it up, and get it doing its thing. Do a little bit more cosmetic work, especially on the back glass, and then we'll see what happens. So you can play it now, but it's it ain't quite right. So we tested it. We've been test playing them in some of our videos before we fix them. I don't really want to do that because one of these boards back here has got some burn marks on it. So if we keep playing it, we're going to cause issues. So we're going to do it the way we usually do it. It does kind of work, kind of play. The score reels are sticky and all of that, but we're going to go through it first. There is a flaw here on the Playfield where one of the drop targets is, no, not drop targets, one of the stand-up targets is cracked, but it is what it is. That's like a piece of plastic, so we're just going to leave it. I don't think it's bad enough that it needs to be replaced with I mean, you could try to make one and then print something, but I think I'd rather just leave the original one on there that's cracked. But other than that, the Playfield's in pretty good shape. We might have to adjust the flippers a little bit. But I think the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and take the Playfield actually out of it so that we can work on the mechanism board down on the bottom of the cabinet. So if you've got a Chicago coin pinball machine or a Stern pinball machine, one of these old Electromechanicals, if you watch this series, you'll be able to fix yours in a similar fashion because the companies use the same parts. Chicago coin was bought out by Stern around 1976. So when they bought them, I believe Chicago coin had already designed this Rawhide game, and Stern just made it a Stern Rawhide. This Stern was the company started by Sam Stern, who had been the long-term president of Williams Pinball and part owner. Okay, so I'm going to pull out the Playfield, and then we'll look and see what it looks like inside and start working on the mechanism board. Okay, so here's inside the cabinet. Like I said, these are a little different than the other companies. One of the things that they had started doing is they got rid of the Jones plugs and just started using... everybody always calls these Molex. I don't know if these were actually made by Molex, but more of a Molex style connector, which is, you know, cool. And then the typical thing, you've got a lot of relays that are very similar to the other companies. You've got a score motor here, very similar kind of to the Gottlieb style, in my opinion. And then we have our ball count unit here, but look at this. They had started using PCBs with connectors on the edge instead of the wires being soldered to it. So that's kind of unique. Be a very early use of that technology for that style connector. The chimes are something else too. The chimes are these two little spring things. I don't even know how they work, to be honest with you. I guess one of them goes down. Yeah, one goes down. The other one goes up. So there are two chimes. We'll have to see if we can get that working. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect some more of the wiring on that mech board there. And then I'm going to take these two big screws out. And there's, I guess, one up in the front. And we're going to lift that up and put it on the top so that we can work on it a little better. And that'll also give us the opportunity to clean out underneath it. So let me see if I can get that out. Alright, so we got it up out of there. Now, I didn't find anything really under it. It's pretty... I mean, there's dirt and dust and stuff, but there wasn't any trash or parts or anything. So nothing to show you. We'll look through the coin box here in a little bit, though. I'm sure there's something. This thing is filthy, though. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it back white how it was originally. You could take everything off of it and then clean it all up and then put it back. That's a lot of work, though. And you could print out new pieces of paper. You could even cut a new board if you wanted to. So depending on how you're doing yours, you need to decide how far you're going to go, right? So I'm going to use a vacuum and vacuum as much of this off as I can, clean it up the best I can, and then we're going to run with it. We're not making trailer queens here, people. My buddy MRN Bricks, one of our followers here, he said it's good enough for the girls we're dating. So we'll clean it up a little bit, and I'll see what it looks like after that. Okay, so we got a lot of it off of there. But there's still plenty left for preservation's sake, you know. Want to make sure we keep all that original dust we can. Boy, this thing's filthy. Vacuumed out the bottom as best I could. A lot of times this like black dust, it's from all the electromechanical stuff. Something about it being a magnet, it just makes black dust. So it's pretty filthy. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is what we do on most of them. We're going to go through all of these relays, and we're going to clean the switches. I use a little flat file, like a point file or whatever, to go through and get them. You don't want to use anything too aggressive, though, because you don't want to eat away the contacts. Okay, and you don't really want to adjust much of it. You just want to adjust them if it really needs it. Okay, let me show you. So there's three types of switches. There's some that are closed, like this one, and then when the relay pulls in, they open. And when it goes back, if you look, it makes the smaller blade move just a little bit, and that's how you know that the big blade must be touching it. Right? So there's the ones that are closed and then they open. And then there are some that are open and then they close. Like that one. Now look at that one. You might not be able to tell it, but there is just a little bit of daylight between it. See how there's a little bit of room there? And then when it closes, it takes it up. So you might be tempted to adjust that and make it like a little wider. Don't do that. If it's working, well, we don't know if it's working, but leave it how it is. Don't go around and adjust everything unless you know that it's messed up. And then the third type of switch is a make or break. So it's to the left, and then whenever it pulls in, the center blade goes and touches the right and releases from the left. So it goes back and forth. It makes one switch and breaks the other switch. So you just want to make sure that they're all doing that when you manually push the relay in. Something I see people doing a lot of times is they'll push up here. Don't do that. Push right here because that's what the coil is doing. If you push up here, you can go too far and you think it's working when it's not. Okay? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to clean every one of these freaking things. It's just time consuming. That's what you have to do, though. It won't be too bad, though. Some people say, too, that you should go around and tighten all of the switch stacks, but most of the time the switch stacks are nice and tight, so I don't run into that very often. But if you do, tighten it up. Okay, so I'm going to do all those, and then if I run into anything all screwed up, I'll let you know. Okay, so I cleaned them all up. I only found one that was tripping. Sometimes you'll get one where the very end blade will be the problem. And I guess since it's at the top of the stack, it just gets pushed out of the way. This is their game over relay, which is more of like a latch. One of them releases it, and one of them pulls it in. So it makes it stay whichever way it goes. The other ones are just momentary, you know. Okay, and then on to the score motor. I went ahead and cleaned all of them too. It's the same thing. You just clean all the switches. So whenever the motor comes on, this starts spinning. Now on the last Chicago coin one we did, we had a problem where this thing was broke. It seems to be made of like a different, stronger material on this one, on the stern one. If you look down in there, you can't really see, but see how the whole shaft is thicker all the way through? It's just a slightly different design. The other one, it had cracked on the bottom, so the motor could spin and this didn't turn. So as it turns, it goes around, it makes all of the switches close and open and do their thing, and it is what it is. There's really nothing to service on the motor. Someone was asking about oiling it. I've never oiled them. I mean, maybe, but I've never done it. And you're looking for broken wires. I didn't see any wires broke. These things, instead of the wires being cloth covered, they're all kind of vinyl, which is more like what we're used to now, you know, or plastic. The only thing I saw was, look at this. That blade is kind of ate up. There must have been something metal landed on there, and it arced some juice across it and actually ate the blade up a little bit. But it's not on there now. Maybe I vacuumed it all. Okay, so we're on to the ball count unit. So one of these little coils will make it move one way, and one of them will make it move the other way. So that one resets it, and that one moves it up. So we've got this little board we were talking about. 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, 5 step. 5 balls. Easy peasy. Right? Notice all this stuff over here isn't even used. This would have been just a generic board that they could use on different setups. And then with this connector, it's kind of cool because they could just put the wires wherever they need them to. I like it. But since it's not soldered, like on the older ones, you know, those pins are a source of a bad connection. You could have a bad connection there. Whereas on the ones where they're soldered, you don't really have that problem too often. So what I would do is same thing, just clean down in there, make sure your pins look all nice. They look good though, really. And then clean the edge connector, and then we're going to clean this tin or whatever it is on the board so that we're getting good contact between the contacts and the metal traces on the board. Just clean it up. You can use a little bit of sandpaper too if you've got a bunch of stubborn grease that won't come off. And then I'm going to put a little bit of our dielectric grease on it that we always use. So I'll go grab that and clean it up a little bit, and we'll see how she looks. Okay, now on this side there's this little bar there. See it touching that leaf switch? So whenever it resets, it goes back and it opens up those switches. You see a variation of this on a lot of these stepper units, just depending on what they're doing. So when it pulls in, when it gets to the first position, and the other for 4 positions, I guess it should say the second position, they're closed. Okay, so that's position 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, okay, so I guess there are 6. So that's reset. 1, the switches are closed. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And so on this side, like I said, just cleaned it up a little bit. Put a little bit of grease on it. Now what you want to do on this though is you want to reset them and then try to step it up just 1 step and then try to reset it again. Now the reason that you do that is because I call it a clock spring, but this spring here, whenever you get it up to like position 6 or whatever it is, you've turned that more, so when it resets it, it's a little easier. But you need to make sure that if it's just turned a little bit, it can still reset it too. Okay. And if you get it clean enough, it will reset on its own. Now notice I didn't change any of the springs or anything. You don't really want to do that. Sometimes people will cut them a little smaller or something. Don't mess with the springs. It should work fine without that. If you get a situation where it won't, it's just real sluggish. Again, it could be that you've got friction on the board. But if you take this apart and take it all off, that's a steel shaft or metal shaft going through there, through a metal bearing. So you put a little 3-in-1 oil on it, right? Good idea too to put 3-in-1 oil everywhere there's a pivot, something that actually moves that's metal on metal, right? And then this is our grease that we use. The reason that you want this is because it is dielectric. Where does it say it? I like showing people that it's dielectric. Dielectric. Good for this type of stuff. If you put the wrong type of grease, it conducts electricity. Big problem. Well, yeah. Dielectric's an insulator and it conducts. It's real weird the way it works. But it's what you use for electrical stuff. So that's what you want. If you need any of this, we've got some on our website. Go to our website, lionsarcade.com. We have a parts page on there with a bunch of our stuff that we use in our videos like this. And it's got links that send you to like Amazon. If you go buy anything on Amazon after you went to one of those links, it gives us a tip. So we appreciate everybody that's been doing that. Go check out our parts page, lionsarcade.com. Okay, so I finished that. I did all of the switches. I did the score motor. The last thing I'm going to do with this mech board is I'm going to check these fuses just to make sure they're the right ones. A lot of times over the years, somebody will swap one out with the wrong value. And if it's too high, like instead of a 10 amp, it's a 15 amp, you can run into problems where something shorts on and the fuse doesn't blow, and you can get wires catching on fire and everything else. So it's pretty common for these to be wrong. So I'm going to check them all and then put them back in. They look like pretty good little fuse holders though, so yeah. A lot of times these will be broke on some of the machines, but on these they look pretty good. But I'm going to check them all, make sure they're the right value, and then after I do that, I'm going to bolt it back down inside the cabinet. Here is the chimes unit. This is the type of stuff that people end up hating, right? Because this, it looks to me like it's probably like a doorbell that's got the case off of it. Okay, so a lot of people will see stuff like this and they go, oh, that sucks, it's not the chimes. Oh, I wish it was bells. The bells were better, but, well, you know, it is what it is, people. If you don't like the little differences in the games, you know, play a brand new one. Most of that stuff's going to be perfect, and, you know, the differences in the games are what kind of makes them cool. This is how Stern at the time was doing their chimes. So it says, rear, transformer, front, do not oil. And over here it says chime, and it's saying transformer. It's saying to make sure to make this the top. Front, rear, and chime. Okay, and then down here to read this. To clean sticking plungers, that's what ours is doing. Place a few drops of non-flammable cleaning fluid on plungers. Then activate chime. Is that what it says? Chime. Repeat until plungers move freely. Do not oil plungers. Don't oil them, people. Whatever you do, don't oil them. Okay, so I'm not going to oil them. I'm going to use a couple drops of a non-flammable cleaning solution. Windex. And see if that does it. I don't know that it will, but we'll see. So it looks like what it does is this one has a little plastic stop, so it can only hit this chime. But this one, this is the one that was the most stuck. It has a little, so it's moving slowly, and it'll stick halfway down and all that. This one has a rubber thing over here, and then it's also got one over here. So it looks like what this one does is it hits both. Ding dong! Who dat? Alright, so I'm going to try to clean the plungers without taking it apart. But if I have to, I guess I could take this out. It's all plastic and it's old, so it might be brittle. But it looks like you may be able to pop that part out to where you could get to the plungers. I'm sure you can, or that's how they had to build it. And I'll try to clean it up and see if we can get it where it moves without ever sticking. All right, yeah, so I just cleaned them up a little bit with Windex. I just put a couple drops on it, and they seem like they're moving just fine. Now it says top, so whenever you mount it on the side, watch they drop just a little bit to where they don't sit all the way up, but I mean that's just a gravity thing, I think. Gravity is a thing, people. I think that will probably be alright. Okay, so I'm going to go put it back in the cabinet, and let's look at the bottom of the Playfield. Alright, put that back. Got the board back in and bolted down. plugged all the connectors back in. Put the Playfield back in. Now, one of the things we usually do first is replace all the light bulbs, but they've already been replaced, so they all look clean, like somebody had just swapped them out. We found a bunch of paper in the cash box from when people were playing it, so I can tell that they were rocking and rolling on this thing not too long ago. But we're going to work through the bottom of the Playfield pretty quick because there's not all that much to do. This one does have some parts of it that are ran on DC instead of AC. So it's got this little bridge rectifier here with a cap. I would suppose, yeah, 10 amps, 30 volts DC. So anything with the red wire on it is going to be DC. So we've got the pop bumpers, it looks like, I mean the kickers, it looks like, are running off DC. And then maybe the pop bumpers. Yeah, there's 2 pop bumpers. Okay. But the flippers are not. The flippers are still AC. It appears. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is the same thing. I'm going to turn it back off, and then I'm just going to clean these relays. There's only 8 of them. Okay, same way we did the bottom. And we're just looking for things that aren't right. Something's in the wrong spot. Something's misadjusted, whatever. Things like this spinner here. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, there we go. So that's when the spinner is up. It's not touching. And then as soon as it spins, it starts touching. So, you know, just stuff like that. There's really not a ton here, and like I said, it was kind of working. So I'm going to go through clean switches, and then we'll look at these 3 units here in the middle and figure out what in the world those are. So here's a great example of what you're looking for. Look, that one's open, and it closes. That one's open, and it closes. That one's closed, and it opens. But what in the world's going on here? It's open, and it doesn't close. So you don't even need to know what this does, but you know that's wrong, right? So you can, there's a little tool you can get to bend that down near the base of the blade. So it should be more like that. Still might not have it quite close enough. That's more like it. So now it'll actually do whatever it does. It says 1 through 5 relay. Okay. Whatever that means. Alright, I didn't find anything else crazy. Everything looked pretty good. So now we are up to these 3 units. Check this out. There's a bonus unit with 2 coils, step up and reset. There is a special target unit, but it doesn't have the connector. It's got soldered lugs, so for whatever reason, they were still doing some one way and some the other way. And then even though it looks like the coils are the same, and we have this one, feature unit, and it's got the coils all black looking. But what that really means is that it's been hot. That's a piece of paper around it. So basically, if you have something stuck on the Playfield, and it's the thing that makes this feature unit turn, it'll make that coil pull in, and then since the switch is stuck or whatever, it'll just stay like that, and you'll get something like that where it gets all hot. It doesn't necessarily mean the coil's bad. If you turn the game on and the coil immediately pops on and stays on, yeah, it's probably bad. But you can still move this one in, so I think it's probably fine. It's just been hot. But we'll keep our eye on it. But it's the same as the one we did down in the bottom. It's moving a little, this one does little half steps or something as it goes around. It's moving so good, I'm just going to clean it and then put a little of the grease on it like we did, and that'll be that. Now there's one switch here that it hits, that it opens, it looks like, as it pulls in. So we got to watch that. So let me clean that one up and then we'll move on to the next 2. So that's with it cleaned up and the grease on it. Now on these, see how that board is pretty much straight with the edge? You can actually turn that with these two little screws here. You can loosen those and pivot that. Then the reason you would do that is to make sure that the fingers line up with the little spots that it's supposed to land on. That one was kind of crooked, and so they weren't lining up. So I moved it a little bit, and now they're lining up great. So sometimes you have to do that. You can see on these next two, though, that they're a little bit off. See how that middle one isn't quite square with the edge, and that one isn't quite square with the edge. But we don't know for sure that that's a problem yet, so we'll see how they line up. Sometimes it just depends on how the spider's made and all of that, how it's bent. So, but we got that one going. These ones where it just goes in one direction, you can't really put the spider on backwards because eventually it'll be around the right way. Okay. So that's that. And now let's move on to this middle one. It's real clean, but I'll clean it up anyway, I guess. But it's so clean. I don't think I'm going to have to take the spider off that one. And there isn't even a switch on the back. So it just moves forward 4 positions and then resets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, resets. It's working perfect. But I'll just see if I can clean it a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next one. So that was the special target unit. Nothing to it. I just cleaned it up a little bit, put a little grease on it. Okay, and now we're over to the actual bonus unit. Let's see if it moves pretty good. See if I can reach it from here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then another pin comes in. Yeah, I think it's working, but it may have some problems lining up on the right. Sound like I said it was twisted a little bit. You just got to kind of watch to make sure that the blades hit the wire that it should. I mean, it's on there, but kind of looks like maybe. Don't do this, people. Don't do this, people. It's a little more straight. And then when the next one gets there, see, it's on it. The next one was right, but that one was a little crooked, I think. I think somebody had bent it at some point. Okay, and then if you notice, so a lot of times it's hard to figure out if the thing is on there right or whatever. If you notice, see how that blade stops right before it gets to the next trace? Okay, so is that right? Well, I don't know, but if you look, that next trace comes up here and there's no wire. So, kind of makes you think that trace isn't used. So therefore, yeah, it's right. The thing shouldn't get all the way to that trace. Maybe, or maybe it's designed where it does get all the way to that trace, so that turns the light off or something. But you kind of, to figure out if it's in the right spot, you kind of have to look at things like that. Now, on this particular one, someone has marked it. See the yellow line, the yellow paint, and the yellow paint. So if you reset it, and by the way, the reason this one resets one at a time is so that it can count the bonus as it goes down and pay you for it. All right, and see the 2 yellow dots are lined up with each other. Now there is a thing bent over. Okay, so same thing. We're just going to clean and the way I'm cleaning it, by the way, is just literally with a paper towel. These things are so clean, everything's in good shape. Just going to clean it a little bit, put a little bit of synthetic grease on it, and then we'll be able to move on. All right, so we got the power back on. So this one is the feature unit, it says. Maybe I can fit y'all in there. Now that thing where both of those are on, I think that might be a setting. Maybe. Sometimes there's a jumper where you can make it easier or harder. And they may have it set, since it's on 3-ball, that it gives you 2 lights or something instead of just 1. So that's that. And then there's this one called the special target unit. So it's up there where you hit that captive ball. It resets back to, it says like 500 when lit, 1,000 when lit, special when lit, or something like that, and then it goes off. Okay, and then the bonus unit. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe you can just see it in the reflection. There it is. So you can see it's moving around, the bonus unit. So when it resets, it doesn't make the chime. But whenever this pulls in, it hits this switch here, which makes the chime. Alright, so I think we got those working, or working good enough for now. The flippers, I cleaned the end of stroke switches. They were already really clean. So we'll play it a little bit and see what kind of shape those are in, and then we'll adjust them or replace whatever is necessary. They seem actually, you know, they're EM flippers, so I mean they're not going to knock it into the glass or anything, but they seem pretty good. Okay, so let's lay it back down and we'll see what we got. Alright, so here's the back box. Here's why I didn't want to play it. Look at this. Something has burnt up there. But now that I look at it, they have hacked it up. They've got some, like some Bondo in the back or something, and a wire mounted to some kind of rivet or something. But it looks like whatever it is that burnt that up has actually been repaired, albeit in a sloppy way. So I think it's probably alright to play it. This is the player unit. It looks like it's not working right. So it looks like you can't play more than a 1-player game at the moment. And then this one here is the 0 to 90 unit. And if you look, they've bent all of the little legs on the spiders up out of the way. Come on now. Come on, people. You can't. If you're an operator and you don't want to give people a match, you can't. Come on now. You can't just bend the little metal things out of the way. Come on, people. That ain't right. That's wrong. Look, it's like a little starfish that's been all beat up. Come on now. And look up at the top. What the hell is that? Come on, people. I mean, this is to the operators out there to do this stuff. Come on now. Come on, people. You can't do that. I don't know why you don't. All right, so let's see if she'll start or anything. Maybe not. She started. We were already on 0. Everything's on 0. Okay, we haven't done anything in the back box yet. But this one, since it doesn't have Jones plugs, that makes it a little better. Look, that's how you know I've been working. Look at that. Got grease all over me. Let's touch something. Pop bumper worked. Kicker worked. Flipper didn't work. That flipper's not working. We're minus the flip of people. Hey, I don't play very good anyway, so it don't matter. Ball 3. Oh, I forgot to warn you about that. The ejects are very violent on this game. Here, I'll show you. Are you ready for this? Look at this crap. So they go, well, Bob, you know, we were thinking in the engineering department, maybe you could whip us up something that kicks the ball out. So yeah, let's put a little saucer at the top, maybe. You know, it's going to be like a rawhide theme. And so when it goes in between the horns, have it eject it back onto the playfield after it scores. And Bob was like, well, I could do that. This is what he came up with. Holy crap! So let's look at this one. Whoa, whoa! Rejected! Get that out of here! All right. So it did its 3 balls. It halfway scores. And then, you know what I think I like the best about the whole thing? This is my favorite little touch. Are you ready? They put the game over on there, crooked. See how it's crooked? I guess so that it would light up all in her shirt, one color. If they put it straight, she's too thin. If they put it down lower, it would be in part of her hand. So they wanted it all in one color, so they put it crooked across her waist so that it would fit right. See, that's why I like Stern and Chicago Coin and stuff, because you can tell like one person made that decision. You know, this wasn't like a big corporation thing. This was they were just flying by the seat of their pants, and that was the best that they could think of, and they ran with it. That's cool, man. I like it. All right, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Next video, we'll work on the back box, including that hacked up stuff. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. And make sure to check out my brother, Donnie. If you don't know about him, my brother here on YouTube, he's my real brother though, has a channel. And if you like watching us work on these old pinball machines, if you check out his channel, we're always putting his videos out there and stuff. He's working on old cars, old trucks, old buildings. We've got a couple buildings that we bought in a small town near here that he's fixing up so that he can rent them out. So go check that out, and we will see you on the next video. Rawhide!